Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
It's finally gone into effect. In about 15 minutes, he'll be at his weakest. That's when he'll strike. Are you sure you're ready for this?
I died ready.
Hey yo, it's Wacko. Call of Duty, Halo, Doom, Titanfall, Half-Life, Metroid Prime, Battlefield, Fallout, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, Far Cry, Borderlands, Overwatch, Counter-Strike, Superhot, Destiny, Quake, flippin' Portal of all things! There are so many first-person shooters. FPSs are plentiful, which is either really cool if you like them, or not if you don't. Every year it seems like we get a ton of trailers for these sorts of games, and they all look exactly the same. But why? Okay, some definitely are, but my point is that your mode of interacting with a game is so limited that there's no real way these different games are distinct, but perhaps they are. So like any good scientist, I'm not a scientist, I decided to play a ton of them and break down exactly what their defining factors are. Call of Duty is often the icon for FPS games, not because it's the best one or because it came out first, it just comes out a lot. As much as it can be repetitive, COD's gameplay has always been really good. The guns are made to be realistic, with real add-ons and modifiers. You carry a realistic amount of guns, grenades, and other tools, and most importantly, if you get shot, you die. There's no tanking hits here. The main gameplay is about hiding behind cover and shooting as fast as possible. It's actually quite fun, and if you get a good position, you can just pop off each enemy as they show up. The game feels very arcade-like. Killing a bunch of enemies gives you kill streaks, which leads to more kills, and you end up just rolling over everyone. And I would be shunned if I didn't mention zombies. Hordes of enemies, different guns to spend points on, and a map that you have to buy to expand. It's a ton of fun to get as far as you can with friends. Or by yourself, because I'm lonely. This may not be the best FPS, but it sure has some good ideas. If I have one complaint, why can't I throw my gun? Like, if I run out of ammo and have nothing left to shoot, just let me throw my gun. Like, I physically could, but it just doesn't let me. Actually, that would probably be more useful in a game like The Last of Us. That game is more methodical, and ammo is such a more important resource that you don't want to run out of. Oh, and when you get the bow, it's a breath of fresh air, because while it may be harder to use in some ways, you can pick up the arrows you've already shot, so you won't lose nearly as much ammo. This isn't a first-person shooter, is it? If COD's the main FPS series, Halo is an easy second. Instead of being grounded, Halo is all about the fantasy. There's alien guns and vehicles that use energy or magic, I don't know. The enemies can be more interesting and distinct, and the players can do more than what a regular human can do. The armor lets you get more hits in before dying, and the aliens are made to be super aggressive. So often the most fun way to play is to just run into hordes arms ablazing, punching everything to a pulp. Until you die. Halo has always been my favorite, just because there's more cool stuff. Plus the Halo Reach Forge mode, where you can just mess around and make bases, it was so fun. Plus you can turn down gravity and use the evade to go flying. This was awesome. You will never do this in Call of Duty, I think. However, the campaigns are just kind of meh. There's a bunch of waiting around, areas don't look too interesting at all, and it gets very repetitive. Maybe I've just been playing the wrong games, but there hasn't been a Halo campaign I've actually enjoyed. And while I haven't finished any COD campaigns, I have enjoyed the missions I played. Doom, unlike the previous, arguably more recognizable shooters, actually did come first. As long as you ignore Wolfenstein and Hover Tank 3D and Maze Wars, which was apparently made by students at NASA? Dude, this sounds sick. For all intents and purposes, Doom was the first modern FPS game, and it's so different from everything else. Instead of having a gun or two shooting at other soldiers, you have tons of weapons and shoot at a variety of demons. This means you're more focused on strategy than precision. You're not trying to hit headshots, you're running in circles, switching weapons, and deciding what threat to take out first. Health doesn't regenerate when you hide, but instead when you find it around the map, which makes you want to explore and find all the secrets. The original Doom, for as old as it is, actually still holds up very well. I would also argue that a lot of the game isn't even about shooting enemies. It's about walking. The game is kind of structured like a Metroidvania, exploring the levels and trying to figure out where you need to go next. You'll be staring at the map a lot. Well, I was, but maybe I'm just bad. The game also sucks if you die, because you respawn with just a pistol, meaning if you die to a boss, you basically have to restart the entire game, or, load a quick save. To help with this, you can find mini weapons multiple times in different levels, so if you die and lose it, you can find another, but if you're able to find the same guns multiple times,
Why don't you let me throw them at enemies?
after a few more releases, even dipping into horror for a bit, the series got a big high-budget reboot, and it's both very similar and very different at the same time. The game is still about strategy, but it's made much more complex by adding a ton to both your movement and the enemy variety. If you thought Doom 1 was varied, you haven't seen anything yet. It builds off what the original Doom started so well, and it really understood what makes Doom, Doom. It does add new ways to get health and ammo by killing demons with melee attacks, which not only incentivizes you to get up close and personal, but it also adds more strategy into what you should attack and when. I'd probably say the weakest part of Modern Doom is the exploration. It's so much harder to find where you need to go when the environments are so much more detailed, and the maps are far less useful. I get that it needed this exploration for pacing reasons, but I wish it was done better. I mean, there are better ways Metroidvania design can be used in FPS games. For instance, I love Metroid, so the fact that they have a first-person shooter made by Texans, I had to check it out. Metroid Prime takes so much inspiration from Doom, but inverts it. While Doom is about the fights and has some exploration, Metroid Prime is about exploration and has some fights. However, the game does have a lock-on feature, meaning you don't really have to think about aiming at all, so movement and weapon choice, again, are what make combat. Enemies will usually appear on your path, so you'll shoot them and move on, with little time or energy put into it. You don't stop everything to join a battle, you blast your way through and keep moving. The world map and the exploration throughout it is what makes a Metroid game, and it's pretty good. Again, finding where to go is much harder in a detailed 3D game than a much simpler 2D one, so the game has a pretty overbearing hint system, which I heavily relied on because I'm an idiot. Throughout the game, you'll also find different weapons that attack in different ways. There's not nearly as much as Doom, and they're often not as different here either, but they're still pretty cool. Also, because basically nothing takes ammo, you'll never need to throw your gun. I mean, it's also your arm, so... Now at this point, first-person shooters have been released for years, and I've talked about a lot of the iconic releases, but if you talk about it long enough, someone's bound to bring up Valve is practically known as the best FPS developers of all time, or at least they were? Half-Life 2 is a pioneer in the first-person shooter genre for a reason, apparently. Half-Life 1, though, I don't see it. Like, it's impressive, sure, with the way the world feels alive and set pieces and movement outside the player, many unique enemies and gun designs that keep the game varied, and a world that's almost seamlessly connected into one giant continuous level. However, that isn't really a good thing. It's a really cool system, and I'm impressed at how well it works, but it was made without any bearing on being fun. There are no levels, no mission lists. It feels like you're just moving forward, waiting for the end to appear, without any sense of progression. It's like you're wandering around aimlessly, no idea where you're actually headed. When I'm 10 hours in, and I have no idea how close I am to the final boss, then you got yourself a problem. Also, because each level directly leads into the next, there aren't any clean resets. How good you do in one section directly relates to how good you start in the next. This means that if you barely get by one challenge, then the next one you'll start with barely anything. And in that case, if you do get past it, it feels like you just got lucky. But if you failed, it feels like it was just unfair since you started with a bad loadout. No win actually felt truly earned. So many times I'd be rolling through section after section just to hit a wall and be stuck grinding out one particular area for an hour and a half. And then I return to just rolling through section after section again. There are some really cool moments, like riding a train through this series of connected tracks, or getting around this giant monster you can't defeat on your own, but instead need to lure to its death. Or even small stuff, like when you go down to this basement to fix a machine, but an enemy is placed right behind you so you're jump scared when you turn around. So like, the game has some stuff that I thought was fun, but the whole experience was dragged down by all the problems. Like, at least in the version I played, there was a ton of aim assists, which was really weird, but the problem is that it didn't even work sometimes. Like an enemy wouldn't be moving, so I'd go for a headshot just for the game to correct my aim onto its body, dealing less damage. And that's when the aim assist even let me hit the enemy. Sometimes it would just not work at all and make me miss. I swear this is not my fault! However, Half-Life 2 fixes almost all these problems. Aiming is made better, levels are just more fun, and the gravity gun is so cool. You get a decent amount of health refills, so I never felt like I was entering a challenge while already weak. The levels still don't really have endings, but there's more interesting story beats. This made it feel like you were actually progressing and not wandering in circles. The game's not perfect, and the ending just kinda happens, but the actual game is far less irritating and far more fun. I would love to see how Valve added onto this even more. They didn't. Valve just kinda stopped making games, focusing more on Steam and making PC products, like the VR headset. And speed of which, they did make a VR Half-Life game. Half-Life Alyx is one of the coolest experiences I've ever played. The pacing is perfect, having you go from gunfight to exploration to puzzles at a great rate. Actually looking around these areas is so interesting. Picking up trash cans, opening drawers, and actually, well, looking around felt awesome. I've gotten fairly used to VR and don't actually feel like I'm there anymore, but having so much more control as to how I do things was still really cool. Obviously, from being in VR, gunfights are very different, but physically aiming your arm was surprisingly fun. I had to practice and get used to aiming down sights. Eventually, when I was able to buy a laser sight, it was so useful just to be able to blast everything with ease so much faster. This is some of the coolest gunfights I've ever been in, because, well, I was actually there. There were times where I'd actually be crouched on the floor to hide under cover, or I would physically lean to throw a grenade around a corner to blow up some enemies before they could shoot me. One of the coolest bits, which is honestly pretty small, is the reloading. To reload your gun, you press one button to eject the empty cartridge, then grab a new one from your backpack, slide in the new one, and press another button to cock the gun. This was so satisfying every time. The 3-hit combo of 2 buttons and a physical arm movement added so much to the experience. When I was in a fight and ran out of bullets and had to fumble my gun to reload before I died and just barely managed to get it working to shoot myself to safety, it was satisfying every time. This is obviously not something all FPS games can replicate, but this is honestly one of the best. Half-Life is kind of a conglomerate of other FPS games. It has the accuracy of Call of Duty, it has the setting of Halo, and it has the multiple guns of Doom. So, how can you really go much further in the genre? High on Life still has FPS mechanics of aiming down sights, throwing grenades, and melee kills, but it also has a bunch of platform mechanics, and is far more focused on humor and being stupid than being a first-person shooter. It's unlike just about any other FPS I've played. Your gun talks to you and comments on stupid things you do. There's a grappling hook, which objectively makes any game better, I'm pretty sure. Fights kind of feel like Doom, where you're jumping around a lot. I haven't finished this game, but so far, the combat has been pretty easy, but we'll see if that changes the more I play. Since Valve is practically known as the best FPS developers of all time, then when they set out to make a puzzle game, of course, it had to be a first-person shooter. Portal brilliantly uses the tropes and controls of one genre in order to create a game within a completely different genre. This means all your muscle memory from another game can work well in this one. Sniping turrets, timing shots, beating of bosses. The game's puzzles are built entirely around the portal gun, leading to an amazing blend between genres. It's strange how first-person shooter is seen as its own genre, but in reality, it's just a starting point to be able to throw any other genre into. Portal is actually so awesome, I ended up with my own portal gun. It's real, trust me. See? Not really sure how it works though. Like Portal, there are so many games that kind of fit as FPSs, but also kind of don't. Neon White is a platformer, and it uses its weapons as keys to the platforming moves, and it's all about finding faster and faster ways to beat each level. It's so rewarding, and you'll end up forgetting that, oh yeah, you have guns. Because the game's a platformer, it doesn't really expect you to be good with guns, so it has a ton of aim assist. Now, why did Half-Life do that? I don't know. The game does go a bit stale and drags on a bit too long for me, but I did enjoy it for the most part. There are so many different first-person shooters that trying to make a video talking about all of them, it's kind of impossible. Superhot which is kind of like a puzzle game, puts you in different rooms and you have to figure out what to do as fast as possible before you die. Everything you do could lead to your death. Every bullet you shoot, every turn of your head, every move you make, and every step you take, you'll be dying because you're being shot at. The game has you use every bullet like it's your last, and if you run out, you can throw the gun, let's go! Games like Neon White or Superhot may not play like FPS games, but they're still pretty obviously first-person shooters. So where's the edge here? This counts? Duck Hunt? Kinda, I guess. Mario Kart 7 has a first-person mode? I don't think this counts. Fallout 1 and 2 are not first-person shooters, but 3 and 4 definitely are, despite still being designed like the first two, for the most part. Wait, does Skyrim count? Minecraft has bows, Mario has cannons, Among Us has some stuff, I think? Why are first-person and third-person shooters separated when they play almost identically? Why is Call of Duty released every year for 1,000,000 gigabytes, and why do people keep buying them? Why can't I throw my guns? There's a lot of questions that I really can't answer, but today I found out that first-person shooters aren't all the same, and the genre is just as expansive as any other. All these games go to show that FPS games aren't all the same. Even the ones that may look the same still have variety in how they play and what they expect from the player. The genre may be more varied than most, so it's sad when we see so many games trying to do the exact same thing. Huh?
Take that green screen suit off.
I can't.
Either you can, or I'll force it off.
Sorry, but the suit stays on.
Quit it!
New perspective gain from all the pain and stress, and when I do come back, I'm stronger than ever before. So you don't disturb me. Look into my eyes and tell me the things you learn about behind my back.
Wait. What are you?
What you're supposed to be.
Come on, you don't want to hurt me. I'm Wyatt.
You're not Wyatt. Wyatt went wacko.
We got him.